All right, before we get to the welcome back, okay. Susan had one too many balls in her rotating bin. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the canyon. No, on your time. We'll just wait. Man, that is smooth. Welcome back to the canyon. Welcome back to another installment of It's Jolly Green's Winter Weightloss Wonderland. What did I do? In betwixt last and now, more time has passed for me than has for you. Honey, I know, it's a temporal distortion. We did the scut work. We did all of the scut work in the meantime. Here is a bin. Here's a bin filled with axles. We cleaned up all of the low. We did the shocks. We got shocks ready. Are they filled with oil? No, because we're not even ready to mock up yet. They're going to have to come off the axles again. Mid-axle. See, I cleaned up the lowers on those, cleaned up the uppers, got everything ready. The only thing left to do on the axles is crack open the portal boxes and make sure that they still have grease in them, because they probably haven't been re-greased since I built them the first time. Those are all cleaned up. Shocks are all mounted. What we did for the shock, who's easiest to see? These guys. So we take the big bore over to the lathe. We turn off the top because we run them upside down. Drill a hole through. This is a Vanquish short end with the little locky tab. Snip that off. Bolt it down. We turn some tiny little hats specifically to fit the springs. These are all 10 Pro stock springs, which are 1 pound. Will they be too heavy? Probably. Will it matter? Probably not. I have also, betwixt then and now, ordered a complete new set of wheels, because the wheels that we had selected before, do you remember 3,600 grams of just wheel tire axle insert? It's like almost 8 pounds of unsprung. What's going on top of this? Here is the scudded out but not yet cut it out. Here's this side. We're doing some grids, because the way that we did, by turning that part off of the shock and adding a rod end, I can change the length of this shock to basically whatever I want. If we need to change, so these are built to exactly 90. A regular 2660, as it comes out of the box with the lower height, is an 85. So we still have the same throw as the 2660, but we're mounting at 90. So the mount hole for all of them is that row right there. Like, so over 3, up 2. So we have a whole array. We can stand them up straighter. We can lean them down more. We can run 5mm spacing, so we can fit an 85, a 90, a 95, or 100. I have pretty much all of those shocks on hand. These are what I want to run, which is why I have punched 24 shock mounting holes at each point. I added the mount holes for the skid, and that is where the biggest note of scut work goes. I did the thing that I do almost all the time when it comes to laying out a chassis. I forget that the motor exists, because we have the gearbox built, we have the gearbox mounted, we have the gearbox configured as it needs to be configured to get the output to go to there. As we mentioned, we're trying not to get 90 to 1. This is an 18. We are currently geared 1856. This is, as you notice, that motor is all the way over. That's as big as it will fit, 1856. So for testing, that is what we're going to run, and it is, I said, the bigger the gears get, the better they mesh. 1856 is where we're gonna run, and this is an old. There's 3 slipper plates in there, so this should prevent the shattering of goods. So I forgot. Finished the last episode, cleaned up, went inside, was standing in the shower, literally a shower thought, and I said, that upper link, you know it's right where the motor goes. Because when this gearbox came out, there's nothing right here. There's where the upper link goes. So we just transferred that over to the metal. There is where the upper link goes. And let me, you tell me if you see a potential problem. Remember where that hole is. Do you see any issue with where that hole is? So that mark designates where the back of the motor is. We are committed. We are going to run the Axe 550 V2 3300. This is the only power plant that we're taking into consideration, because from the very beginning of this, the idea was to put in a Stealth X so that we can gear reduce this thing way, way down into that 70, 80, 90 to 1, whatever we find out tickles our fancy at that given moment. So this is the motor. So we made the sacrifice. We shortened the center axle. Has lowers and uppers that are the exact same length in stock configuration. I shortened them the absolute minimum amount. They went from there to there. It is, I want to say it's exactly 25 millimeters. It is precisely 25 millimeters. So the rear upper is now 1 inch shorter. So what I've done is, there is the factory hole. We're going to go 3 holes above that in case. Because the only reason that they have them the same length is they want to keep the pinion angle change minimized, because a shaft attaches that to there. We might run into all the problems. Worst case scenario, we have to move. So this is actually, because these basically almost overlap each other, the axles are right about like that. In the absolute worst case scenario, we'll move this back about like that. Holes will still be functional because, as I said, it's that hole. So the original hole is basically standing straight up and down. So we can move that rear axle back 20 millimeters and not affect, which will mean all new links, but we can move it back 20 millimeters and not affect shock mounting position. And shock mounting position is what important, because that will allow us to run a much longer drive shaft in between the two, which I don't think will actually be a problem. That will give us more engagement, so we don't have to worry about one axle over traveling and pulling the drive shaft apart. These are all questions and concerns that run through my head, but today what we're going to do is the irreversible. We're going to cut aluminum. There were 2 more imposters hiding on there. Look how thin that wall is, especially compared to the TRX4 ends. So all of the links should be okay. All right, we have it measured out. The hole actually did pretty much line up. We definitely don't need that hole because the shock is actually attaching way back there. This is the mount for the front upper. We're going to do a grid of 9. I want to say that it's the one right in the center. That will give us a little bit of adjustment in the front. We've got some loose. We can leave the skid uncut because we have plenty of chassis to work with here. And these are probably going to be cut like about where these arrows are, like way up here. How much gets cut off will be determined by how much need be cut off. I still can't. 1,900 grams of axle. We're going to do this the way that we always do this. Sometimes it's a risk, sometimes it's a reward. We will find out together what it's going to be on the day. Just wipe this down, because until we get the first couple holes in, oh, that's not even bad. That's not bad at all. We have to bind the 2 pieces together chemically so that we might bind the 2 pieces together mechanically. I need to drill holes through. I'm going to go through there and there, drill through the second plate. I will tap straight through, put a screw into each. I will probably also use this lower one, which is already tapped, drill through the second plate, tap and mount, and then we'll probably one of these and then one of the panhard ones. We want as many screws into it as we can get. I have 2 bottles. One works, one doesn't. And this is what we do, the sacrificial we do the sacrificial glue. Because the heat, the first time we touch this to something, even the process of drilling often tries to pop them apart. And they don't have to be spot on. They just need to be close. Kind of feel across the top. Oh, it's trying to bond. It's trying to bond. And that should be pretty good. And it's already set. Okay, we did good. The uncut one is actually up about 1 millimeter off of the other side, because all this is going to get cut off probably right about here. As I said, those are going to move up, but we do a process, and that process is we drill all the holes first. Why the gloves? Did I explain the gloves last time? I think I explained the gloves. I have the tendency, I have the woodworker's tendency, and when you get into, you can basically treat aluminum like wood-ish. I have the very worst tendency, which is, say we drill one of these holes, I will go like this. Baby, that's not wood. It'll just go up inside you. Or we'll just clean that edge off. Yeah, I've had the metal inside me. So that's what the gloves are here indeed, well and truly, to save me from myself. So holes drilled. We'll get these mounted together, right? Once they're mounted together, we can cut them to match. Then we're going to drill well, let's see. That's 72, and 9 and 4, 13, 85, and 6, 91, and 6, 97, 98, 99. It looks like it's 99. It looks like we're drilling 99 holes in this. And then we have to, tap to run threads into those. All of them except for 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19. And then we have to drill and tap 80 of them. Because I don't like putting lock nuts on. So I will spend the time drilling all of these and tapping all of these. Thank God for mock blue goo. And but first, we're going to put these together. So here is what you'll miss taking place out of frame that will happen about 80 times. Well, I just did 5, so will happen about 75 times. Mock blue goo in the hole. Speedy tap, which are spiral flute taps. Run it. Mock blue goo makes it like you're drilling into paper. Wipe it off. Grab a wrench. Grab a, I don't know what, these have some sort of like ultra resistant coating. I'm not exactly sure what they are. You thread that into the hole. Now, I won't have to do this again because, ooh, that's a brand new one. Ooh, you gotta put some elbow into that. We'll get that clamped down, because as I was drilling them, the first couple, you could probably see those panels start to pull apart. Get it down snug, but don't try to strip it. So we've got 6. We've got 6 holders holding it in place. They're not coming apart. They are now mechanically bound because, I mean, realistically, a little bit of super glue on 2 sheets of aluminum is not going to hold those sheets of aluminum together. So I have to drill. Well, we have 6 that are all the way through. I have 93 holes to drill. This will usually consume a drill bit. Generally, that drill bit will, even using the sweet blue butter, will usually pretty much wear a drill bit out. And then, oh lordy, because this is where the pan-hard mounts, those have to be threaded. All threaded, not threaded, not threaded. Nothing threaded here in this center part where the skid goes on. All threaded, all threaded. These also need to be threaded as well. I have debated whether or not to put different different link mounting positions for the rear axle, and I don't think that it's absolutely necessary. I think that the geometry of the rear axle is absolutely fine where it is. It's got very short links on it. The big hope now is that things don't fall apart. So, probably 30 to 40 minutes of drilling and tapping holes, and then we'll get to cutting. If you've ever had to sit down and drill like 90 holes in one go, you will experience drill press thoughts, which are right in along the same vein as shower thoughts, raking thoughts, when your brain is basically turned off because you're just repeating the same function over and over and over again. Then your brain goes, hey buddy, did you think about where the servo's gonna mount? And I went, oh no. Because ordinarily, you don't have the shock mount and the panhard, they're not that close together, right? Because, again, unintentional LCG. So, if we go with the original mount, we'll probably be okay. But I also dug through the bin and got a Zoku laydown, which will probably work out better with the anvil, because the anvil, so, yeah, we're gonna, yeah, where, as compared to, you know, so, we'll not be able to tell where this needs to align vertically nor fore to aft until we have this cut out enough to where we can kind of mock axles into place. So the hope is to get this thing mocked. All three axles, the skid and the steering servo in place, basically mocked. Then there will be the finish work of, geez, when the holes get knocked out. I had to stop and vacuum twice. I got about this far through the holes, vacuumed. And there's metal. I mean, let's see if all of the holes are still just full of metal. Had to keep cleaning the back off because the drill bit kept blowing the backs out. I am just going to cut this and this off. We're just going to make them match. And then we'll figure out what needs to get. Oh, then we're going to have to make the marks for this. We're going to have to chunk that out. So throughout this process, constantly, you just have to keep telling yourself, it doesn't matter. That's the cutoff so far, and we will double the size of that. This already feels like it's about the same weight as the stock rails, and this is a giant bar. Okay, most important is the blue pen, and I forgot to put my apron on, and I really like this shirt. This is a good shirt. I'm wearing a shirt I shouldn't be wearing when I know I'm going to get completely coated in aluminum. So that goes right there. Yeah, we're going to go from there, and then we only need to be about there. So, we should mark the top. We'll use a side skirt because it's a little taller. So we don't want to go any lower than about there. And in reality, we want to go a little higher than that still. Got it. We have to find the right ruler to dodge all of the little studs holding it together. They're a little hard to pick up with gloves on. That guy'll fit. And he looks like, yeah, right there. So what we're telling ourselves is things to memorize. We only want to cut. We want to cut inside the blue. We don't want to cut any of the line off. I'm kind of saying it aloud so that I remember it. And then we're going to cut down that way. And that could actually be cut off a little more. And then we're going to mark right here. Because what we want to do is we want to leave more material than we actually need, and we're gonna round that edge. Not even gonna bother to get the French curves. We're just gonna follow it across on the inside. And this will be, I forecast, the worst one to cut out, because I have this sneaking suspicion that that's only a 9-inch. That's a 9-inch bandsaw that we're using, and that is 10.5 inches to right there. But it's also 12.5 inches from there. So we have to do these little cheaty, little like zig, like we have to do these little diagonal parking cuts and then flip it and try to diagonal the other way and then finish it out with a file. There's no metal cutting bandsaw here. There is an old Delta 9-inch wood cutting bandsaw that we put a bimetal blade in it so we can cut aluminum on it. And it wears the wheels out every couple of years, and then you have to replace those. But it's made every chassis I've ever made, so it's doing all right. I almost forgot my little pile of leave-ins. Now it looks crazier than ever because, oh boy, looks like you could just fold it in half. There's no point in cleaning up any of the holes at all. There's going to be so much more taken off of this. I'm running through in my head as we go. What is going to be? I need a wrench. What is going to be? How are we going to brace it? Like, what are our cross braces going to be? We've gone so far. We've gotten this far. I either want something off the rack, meaning something we already have, or I'm just going to make it. I don't want to order out for anything. I didn't cut it far enough. And the drill is still over there with the tap in it. So I must have stayed way too far inside this line. So we need to do a bunch of little cuts because... Was I on the right one? Yeah, it's about... See the part I didn't clean off? That's hitting the motor. We want to be a little farther back than that. I had a nearly overwhelming temptation to get the big vise out. And, oh man. You remember, 4.5 by 23, and just keep your eyes on what's left when we're done. Sometimes direct wire comes back and bites you, because you never think far enough ahead into the future where you're like, at some point we're gonna take this thing completely apart and we're gonna remake it. And then this is what it is. This is the part that doesn't get documented because you got to keep trimming and testing and trimming and testing and trimming. And it is time consuming to the extreme. Fabricating a typical set of rails is probably 3 to 4 hours, all inclusive between drilling the holes, tapping, getting everything laid out. This is going to be 8 to 10 hours total. In amount of total time spent, including the work that occurred between the last episode and this episode. So we're going to get this mocked up in this installment. That's my promise, more to myself than to you. We've already had to go to the file. I think I don't want zero clearance. I don't want the chassis rubbing on the motor. Yeah, I can definitely take more down out of there. This is the process. All right, you've progressed your way into the really weedy portion of this where now we have the ultimate opportunity to make all of the mistakes, because we need to set up the front end. Okay, my panhard positioning looks perfect. That is going to line up right where I want it. Front to upper, but because we don't have enough cut out here, we can't get this to sit down. It's pushing the axle either to one side or the other. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to rough where that is, and we're going to need to right about there, and we're going to need to cut out just a little square right there to clear the panhard. We should probably actually go a little bit higher than that so we don't have to cut it too many times. I got to cut that out. Then we need to bolt all this stuff. It's on, it's off, it's on, it's off, it's on, it's off. I will alert you. Let me see where that shock is lining up. It's pretty much perfect. Because when we're at ride height, that's a little bit of a... Yeah. It's looking... Okay, I'm feeling pretty good about it. I'm going to be nervous until we've got holes for a servo mount. Until we've got the servo mounted. And I should just... I'm pretty much dedicated to going with this one. So I'm going to pull the servo out of that bracket, slap the servo into this bracket, and then we'll get those holes lined up. If we're sharing a hole with the panhard mount, that's absolutely fine. We can pass that through. Yeah, because we have all of the perfect opportunities here. I just want to run a regular Amazon cheap horn. That way when one gets blown out, you can just replace it. That is the true strength of the $2 servo horn. We will also see if I have to do any Dremel whittling of that mount to clear the massive cables that come out of the side of an RS-800. I mean, I kind of figured like it was going to go lay down from the beginning. Oh. For a moment, I was like, hey, that clears easy. And then I remembered the servo has to go the other way if we want to actually have steering and not have catastrophic amounts of bump steer. So now we've added another... Wow, that was not tight at all. We've added another unexpected variable to the equation, which is we now have the Zoku lay down front mount, which is for a Vanquish. So we'll see what this does to drag link, length, and position. Is this going to fit? Or are we going to have to whittle? That fits great. I've had some servos that you absolutely have to bully into mounts before because the width of the case, the thickness of the wires. Don't use power drivers on 3D printed parts. Everybody, just avoid the temptation. Don't do as I do. This is just the documentation of a procedure. I would never go so far as to say this is how it should be done. My style is identical to none. This is how I do it. We've had a roll away. Nope. There he is. So here's what I'm going to do. Instead of talking while performing menial and remedial tasks, that screw right there is a very critical length one because the wires are right there. I do not want to punch through into those wires. We can go hog wild on the front two, and we're probably going to use about a 10 in that one, but that one needs to be an 8. I don't like when that happens. The other side, we're wide open. I can use like 10s all the way across. We will compute those and make sure that we get them right. Oh, we're going to mock this horn on, and to mock, we're not going to put any screws in it. That way we know. So if the axle is straight, well, I can't even steer it back all the way. I'm going to get this servo mounted so that we line up. I also have to find the drag link. So that the drag link, I have no excuses. If this front end comes out wonky, there's only one place to point, use all fingers. There's only one place to point 10 fingers of blame. Because I have the opportunity to set the height with the horn, Because usually if you change the servo or you change the horn, if you're working with chassis mounted steering, you throw everything out the window, right? Because sometimes the head height of the servo is different than the one. They designed the geometry in the front end of a TRX4 for a 2075X, for better or for worse. A lot of times you can find a servo that's the exact same height, and then everything is hunky-dory. But there are no standards in servo manufacturing, whether it be the width of the whole, except for the output spline. They've kind of all agreed now on 25 spline. But I have the ability and the opportunity right now to set all of the spacing, to set the fore aft spacing of the servo and the vertical spacing of the servo. I am going to do that. I have no real way to guarantee if it's correct until we've got two sides. Because I can't physically attach the panhard, because the upper link mounts to the opposite side, and the upper link is controlling the movement of the front axle side to side. Same job as the panhard, but the upper link can triangulate, and the panhard is not the hypotenuse, it's the other one. Anyway, the axle will just go like this. With just a panhard and no upper link on it. But with an upper link on it, we can kind of sort of lock it into place. So I think I got it. I went to that horn. I also hedged my bets, and I drilled 6 holes. And if I start to feel froggy, like if it's off by that much, we will go through the process, the fine and delicate process of dremeling out in between the holes. On a Zoku chassis, I brought a rail over here. On a Zoku rail, he is nice enough to, he gets them laser cut or however they're cut, slots. So you have all this freedom of movement. Hopefully, we're not going to need all of that freedom of movement, because I mocked it in a fashion, I'm clutching my own hands, in a fashion that I think will put it in the right place. I looked at it from both sides. If anything, a flat horn with the pointing out. This is a 20 millimeter instead of the 24 millimeter. It's fine. This thing had way too much throw anyway. If we have to switch to the 25, we'll deal with that when we get to deal with that. I can't really going forward adjust the vertical height of the servo. That's fine. This thing is going to be, so low. When it sits, okay, that is link level right there. With links level, 4-inch. Let me grab one of these guys. Well, probably just be easier to do this rather than speculate. So get one of these on so it doesn't fall off. Still mounted on the old wheels. I have the new wheels. We'll be sitting right about... Nope, we need 2. Doesn't work without 2. And we have deep woods to test, and we have tusks to test. We will see which it likes. So with links level, I can reach it. Whatever body we decide on. Oh my goodness. That is 7 inches to the top of the cab, 2.5 inches to the bottom of the chassis, which is still rough at this point, needs the rest of the way to cut out. That is 170, call it 180 millimeters to the top of the cab. We've got about 60 millimeters under the center chassis. This is going to be really, really low to the ground. And also, do you see what I see? Okay, let me grab that other, let me grab the other body option. Do I think that this is sort of more in the overall spirit of Jolly Green? And it's not like it's going to throw a bunch of weight up into the air. Oh, What I'm looking at, and what I should have done, is cut this out. Because it's location of the fender is the important part. Okay. So, if I chop, this guy has an extraordinarily long hood. The hood is probably an inch longer than the old deuce here. My preference, you know, standing here now would be the deuce. The problem is that fender does not line up with our front axle because it has to tuck behind the motor. And the little steps, well, hold on. I'm thinking my way through it. Okay, we might be able to absolutely cut this to ribbons. Like, see how it has the steps? That little guy, we would probably basically just have to cut it off just below the door. So, can we get it down there? Or leave the step and just part of the fender? No matter what, all of this side of the fender would have to come off. And then we would try to get it down to right about there, where it's basically sitting on the hood. Okay, this guy is definitely an option. He would have to be carved up to the point, I mean, they're over, as you can see. Overall length is almost exactly the same. Actually, the hood is almost exactly the same. We can wait, here's the decider. Here's the grand decider. This is the bumper, the titanium bumper. I mean, that's a good thing to see. I'm not offended by that either. Okay. So it doesn't really matter. We're going to have to take these down. I'll scribe 5 millimeters above that point. What we need to do now is, now I can see, pardon me, gentlemen, I might fit both of those bodies. We might fit both, and he can change hats. We'll get a common mounting system to mount them both, because I just set it down like this. Their footprints are very nearly identical. So if I fit it, this is just taller. So if I fit it to fit one body, I can fit it to fit the other. We need our blue pen. Okay, so this, I'm just going to go a straight line right across. We'll basically just edge sander that down. And then we will go right up above. So we'll leave about 5 millimeters below the panhard mount. And then we basically just want to promote ourselves some clearance. So we can unbolt some stuff. You know what I should have done? My biggest regret of this whole process, I should have taken a used skid. Apparently just not remembering that I would have to bolt and unbolt that skid 50 times. That is why I left all the holes on the rail, so that those little holes, they basically don't even matter. So if they're completely cored out of the chassis, the center chassis will still mount, because I'm going to use all of the mount holes on the side. So we are going to cut this chassis to fit to this side. So we'll come along here on the bottom. We only have to worry about it to about there, and then there's our angle. So we're definitely gonna leave some meat on this. A little bit of extra meat, it's fine. You can always cut off more, and then that we'll just give ourselves a little angle up here. And then what we'll do is we'll just come straight across like this. We're definitely not going to need a dip. We're definitely not going to need a dip. Well, I say that now with a confidence that I haven't earned for myself, because let's grab, this guy's easier to slip into place. Okay, that's all the way down. No, if anything, it will have, at the front of this, it will notch up. There'll be a little step up to get the bumper tucked up into here. We might, what we might do, see how that guy lines up? What we might do is, see how we have this angle? We'll get to the point where the dragling comes, and imagine this is drawn on with pen. We'll just copy that angle like that up to the line that we need to mount the bumper. Because it looks like both of these, this guy could droop his nose down a little lower, but I want to fit it to accommodate both. This guy would probably end up getting frame notches, so he sits down over the frame. This guy would not need the frame notches, I don't think. No, the frame would come out past the sides. This is going to be the one that's easier to fit. I think this guy is in the spirit, but at the same time, this is the all-in solution, is it not? You definitely can't put a driver figure in there. Your windshield is about 1 centimeter tall. All right, we cut. Oh, this will be an easy cut. Just feed the, yeah, easy cut. Feed that right through. Add it to the pile. At this point, it looks like we're building a pulse rifle. That's where the magazine would go on the imaginary pulse rifle, I imagine. So, this is the part that is getting to me. We will trim that down, but I only need the sander to do that. Oh, you know what else we can do? We can just freehand this. So, I'm looking at this spacing here, which is probably about 7 millimeters. So we would guess that that's probably right about there. And then 7 millimeters back, let's say that's right there. That's how we do it. We kind of go by feel. And then we'll come off of this line here. We'll go up to there. And then we'll see, how does that look? I don't like when those angles are too far apart, and I already kind of cut deep on this one, so we need to go a little bit, well, we need to go a little bit flatter. Let's go right like that. It's going to get a little squidgy. It's going to get worse before it gets better. We'll go around, same thing here. Come around like this. We have to cut and cajole that part out. How does that look? That looks okay. That looks okay. It's kind of meaty right here. So maybe, so that's coming off there. We might come up like that and then tie that in right there. Yeah, I think I like that. I think I like that. That's how we work. And on this, we're just going to go a straight line straight across the front. And then it's going to drop down because we're going to do, well, where's that Zoku? Where's that Zoku? We're gonna borrow that amount of spacing. So this will be the thickness that we will cut the front down to. Boy, that servo mount is high on this guy. I don't know if I've seen a servo that close to the top of the shocks. This is gonna be very interesting. Will we have destroyed everything that we hold dear? I can't rule it out. Let me tell you something. My location and size of my bandsaw are really not conducive to basically cutting a frame rail any longer than old Victor here, and we've got a little bit of length on Victor. Now, will we have that length after this is all chopped down? Not a whole lot. Well, let's see. So the front end is probably going to go to right about there. Yeah, we'll probably, that's the rear axle. We're probably going to be cutting an inch-ish off the front and off the back. So we'll probably be about 21 inches end to end on this. I can't wait to get that front nipped down, but we can't get there yet. Okay, now what we can do is we know, like, I can't imagine that goes above the front mount hole. I can't imagine that hole going any higher. So same thing, about that 7 millimeters, we'll go to right there, and we'll come back. And then we'll go to about 7 millimeters or so, 1/4 inch, right about there. And then we will chop here. Yeah, it looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. Get some mass off of there. And as that is our arbitrarily chosen line for there, we can't cut that yet because we need to look at, okay, let's just operate from an assumption. Let's operate from a dangerous assumption, which is that this, oh, he's Victor thick. He's as thick as Victor right now. So we will go right like this, and we will see how this looks. We were real close. We were real close. Okay. This is going to require... I got to take them off. This is going to require internal thoughts. I am basically... Here's what I'm going to do. Climb aboard. We're expecting you. I am going to start fresh. We're going to take all of our blue off. And I am going to do something semi-organic. Also, it gives you a fresh view of things once you get... my eyes get real distracted by that blue. We're going to take all that blue off. Which, I mean, you can also get that fresh view by looking at the other side. That's a lot of holes. It's a lot of holes. We are going to take all that blue off, and I am going to lay out the removal pattern for old Jolly Green here. With my favorite blue pen. I'm going to mark out where we're going to cut this chassis. And then we're going to cut this chassis. So it's only been about 90 minutes. And what I cannot add to the pile are the mountains of aluminum at the sander, at the bandsaw, at the vise that I clamp things in to clean them up. Ladies and gentlemen, Jolly Green gets real small and real thin. This is mostly cleaned up. We don't have the final cleanup on it because there are still holes that need to be made and things that need to be mounted. What I did not check and what I meant to check, and I kept reminding myself, remember I said that 2 of these would be perfect. And yes, they still will be, but how close are we? 2 of these will be absolutely perfect. So there are 6, 7, 8, like 10 more holes to drill. We're probably going to get, do I have 2? Do I not have 2? There are different ones. There are different flavors. Look at that. This one's real low. This one's real high. Luckily, they're the exact same bolt mounting pattern. What I'll have to do is dig the bins and see if I have... No, because we've replaced... I get it. Where is it? The big truss that... This right here. That has this as part of it. So a TRX6 only has 1 of these, and I believe this is Jolly Green, so it has the higher clearance one. But we don't have... Oh, it has the higher clearance one because this is taller. But we don't have to worry about that. We're going to put it well in front of it. The thing is, we are now at the official Rubicon, where we absolutely must pull the sides apart. It will take... the messes are reasonably localized. It will probably only take about an hour to clean up the damage that we've done. Let's see if that little bit of glue has any bond left. Usually, by this point, no. We've heated it up so much by pressing it against saws and sanders. Oh, it's still got a... Oh, nope. No. Nope. There you go. There is... These edges are... a strop. You know, they take that edge off a razor. These are razors with that edge. If you went like that, wide open, baby. Has to be all deburred. I tend to sand it and then steel wool the whole thing down to take all of the burrs off. But I made my word is bond. I made a promise to you and I and we and us. And that promise was, we're going to put the axles under this. We're going to put the axles under it. It's not going to move. Our biggest hope is just that things line up. That's all we want. That's all we want. We don't have... I'm going to fabricate the... That is way too long, sir. Way too long. I am going to fabricate... We're going to go with like 8s for almost everything, because we don't want to put a screw in too far and ruin something. I'm going to fabricate something for the rear, basically in the vein of a bumper delete. For the front, I have already drilled the holes for the bumper. We can mount those. We will find out what the chassis spacing looks like, because these are fairly generic. It looks like it's going to be correct, which is, on the one hand, unnerving, because that's not a thing that happens around here. We don't get it right. Every rig here that is on an LCG, no, I can't say every. I get it right sometimes. We take the shot. Sometimes the shot is correct. We have stuff that is not ready. I looked now and saw that the middle upper link mount holes are not either drilled out nor... One of them is tapped, but we probably won't be able to reach it. I got that too tight. The sides, that guy, they are going to have to be cut down, because the back of it extends back past the anvil. As I was working, I got fully committed to the anvil. We will find a place. I will happily find a place for that big deuce cab, because I don't want to cut it down. We've already got Scarlet. I've got a Lady J Ultimate Super 7 figure down there. We can build a Lady J. What will Lady J be? I don't know. Something. It'll definitely be something. These are not drilled out. Basically, I want to get the front end. The rear end, ladies and gentlemen, is no problem. The front end is where I'm just nervous. Like, I want that panhard and that drag link to line up. I really, really do. And we are just going to kind of mock it up in place. We're going to mock this whole thing up in place, because it all has to be taken apart. We're going in this deep to see where the chassis braces need to go. We'll choose that one. It is so far, no worries. No worries yet. This is also where we always get to find out what final fitments are going to be like. Oh, okay, hold on. Ooh. So far, so good. We only need 4 screws in that. You know what I'm going to do? Pardon me for a moment. I realize none of the shocks have hollow balls in the ends, because I would really like to... Oh, you know what? We can fudge this in. I can just... Because that one is threaded, I can use my ball end, bolt that in from the side. Let me get a couple more of these pieces bolted up. It's going to take too long if I walk you all the way through it. I think it only fitting that for the closing of this installment, we leave the mess in all of its glory. I had to make some small changes. I came to a conclusion midway through. I've already thrown them back in the bin. Those full width sliders would have to be cut down to about this size in order to fit. These are like Ecto Gatekeeper. So that is what we'll run. I found a bumper delete, like what comes on an Ecto Gatekeeper. And digging through the bins for the chassis braces. I have one of the low kind and one of the high kind. And I thought, I just need some with holes. And then I remembered, these are the regular Element ones. Not crazy about the track. Dig further into the bin. These are the ones from the, I think from the SE. I want to say these are from the SE. How they're just flat. So I'm going to mount 2 of them. Because of course we have 2 of them. I'm going to mount 2 of them in there. So we'll have to drill 4 holes, 8 total. And then look at all my mounting points to mount some sort of filler. I know, everybody's like, yeah, get to the point. So, tell me this isn't one of the sickest things you've ever seen. So that is fully drooped, and then it will sit right about Link's level. The rear has nothing to control its width. So this drive shaft almost looks like it's going to fall out because, well, they're supposed to be that far apart. But we have literally nothing to hold them together. And all of these pieces are the same width. So this will go nicely. And there's holes in this one as well. And then we'll just get a little bed, a little wooden flatbed in there. This body will actually sit right about like that. It will need a little bit more trimmed out to clear the drive shaft. It might have a little bit trimmed here just so it full up. Maybe not. Maybe not. We might not have to cut that at all. We had to put a little notch in it to get it to sit down far enough. And we may even need to trim it a little in the front and in the back. We're almost sitting on the tops of the shock towers. My goal is, I left all of this meat here for a reason. Some of my favorites are 10 Pro mounts. The plan is right here, right in that spot right there. Grab 2 10 Pro mounts, drill the holes, bolt them to the rails from the inside. 2 pins, they will come out right. They'll go right there and right there. Should be absolutely perfect. And we can get this body sitting down. Yeah, it's going to sit right there. So the slider will be right at the bottom of the body. These are things that I should never be surprised about because, well, I mean, this is what I was shooting for. I was like, oh no, we got the angles wrong. And then I start pinching the chassis together and I'm like, oh, things are kind of falling into place. I did go to the element mounting position for the front to upper because it was doing something crazy with the front axle. It was doing so much caster loss. It was going to negative caster, positive caster, negative caster. It was rocking the whole front axle forward a lot. So this extended that front length, much as how we shortened these by 25 millimeters. I lengthened the front upper by about 20. And we'll find out. We'll find out if it works. You know, we will find out if it works. When I sit here, oh, and also, so now we have a grid of 9 holes, and it doesn't go to anything, and I have to drill them out anyway. I am going to, we'll just take a, we'll just build a little plate. And then this guy will go, well, we're gonna have to run a gear cover for this operation. Otherwise these wires are gonna be right in the spur gear. I think I have it. Do I have it? Yeah. Will it fit? Yes, fits no problem. We'll build a little plate and then the speed control will sit right there. And part of me is like, I do wonder. Yep, that's how that's going to go. We're going to build a tray that is mounted off of these and maybe a lower shock hole if need be. Battery is going to go right there. Pretty much just like that. Probably off that bottom row of holes so we can have this stuff down lower. We have to get the drive shafts installed before we know. So we'll have these 2 braces in the back. I'm just going to line them up with the shock towers just like that. This guy is going to go here. That's all for the next one. We'll have to clean all of the metal up. Here's what we can do. Here's what we can try to do. We'll grab a block. We'll grab a scale. What else goes on here? I think he runs... I've like completely lost the receiver. Is it in the box? Yeah, Jolly Green is currently occupying a lot of bins still. There's bits and pieces in like 4 bins. I cannot find his receiver, but we need 2 channels. So I would love to put him on a tiny little R4 FGM, a little tiny micro, because we can mount that absolutely anywhere. I could stick it to the back of the speed control. And we'll make sure that these wires are tucked out of the way, because he definitely doesn't need one of those 7 channels. So it's now into the most annoying part, which is all of the little cleanup and fine-tuning to get everything to sit. There's a battery, there's a motor. We'll just set these plastic pieces on top of them. We'll assume that these go in. He feels incredibly heavy because we know, we got to do it in grams. We know that the axles, wheel tire inserts weigh just over 3,600 grams. I have it written down. I should. 853, what did I say, 492, 473? Let's not guess. Let's not guess. So the 3 axles, 18, 18, then we remember we need to subtract the, I subtracted 11 grams. That was just for the shock, unbuilt without the bits on it. So we're going to call it 1750 for the axles, 1710 for these wheels and tires outfitted. That is 3,460 grams, which is about 7.6 pounds. So we have 7.6 pounds in axle and, oh, are we still there? In axle wheel tire combo. So subtract that from, it feels unbelievably heavy. That's some good pirate ship noises. We'll get the little pieces of plastic in, and then add the weight. Oh no, the receiver isn't even going to compute. Those things weigh nothing. 4,782 grams in effectively RTR configuration. I was about to get the calculator out, and then I remembered I can do this. 10.54. Now, I did mention, let me grab one. I bought 2 sets of these. I liked them. I'm not a huge 5-spoke guy, but I like these. They're so simple and clean. I like these. I get the feeling that 10.5 pounds plus or minus, I would say like 2 ounces. Well, okay, let's just do this for you. This all has to come apart. We just dropped to 9.9. We just dropped to 9.25. 8.65. So when I said I had a sub 10 pound stretch goal, 8 pounds even, 7.4, 6.7 pounds. I don't think wait, hold on. That's an important number. I need to know this number. 3058. This is an important number. We've shed 500 grams. Oh no, more. Jolly Green with the slider, body, battery was 9.5 pounds. He is now 6.6 pounds. He lost 3 pounds. and gained a tremendous amount, well, not a tremendous amount, a couple 100 grams of unsprung weight in the axles. There is definitely some fine tuning. I feel like, well, no, that one's drooped. That one's drooped. There's some fine tuning in the link points. I might have gone 1 millimeter one way or the other. It might be as simple as a matter of just dialing out or taking them over the lathe, taking a little bit off of the link to get the link to sit exactly where we want it. The fact that that is sitting right there, right now, at 6.58 pounds with a battery in it, or 6.75 pounds, 6 3/4 pounds as it is like there. Any additional weight, there's going to be a little bit of paint, a little bracket to hold the speed control, nothing substantial, and then we're going to add wheel tire combos, and these are much lighter. It still feels incredibly heavy to me. Each one of these is 69 grams. I want to say these are well 170 grams, something like that. So just round it off to 70 grams. I think the lightweight combo with all the weight set on the axle, I mean, we're going to try them both. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to mount the tusks up on these and leave the deep woods on there, and we can move things around as need be. Basically, long-term, short-term, okay, we have some unused tires. We've got some groundhogs, landmines, Baja MTZs, of course Canyon trails. We've got a number of tires in a quantity of 4. So we have a number of tires that could be put into service, but we currently have Canyon trails, deep woods, and tusks, which are probably like our 3. That's our holy trinity of tires here. We have all of those in 6s. We have 6 of those. So we're gonna find out. But what will not be documented is the microfitments. We, and by we, I mean this guy. I have to go through this whole process of completely unmounting everything. And I had to lock nut everything down to make sure that the angles were working out correctly. I have to completely detach everything from the chassis, get the 2 plates, bolt the 2 plates back together, mark this. What I did is I would take these guys like thus, and that points forward. I would compress the axle all the way, and I would say, does this strike? And it does not. We basically line it up with that back hole. So we'll mount one right there, and we'll do the exact same thing here. Line it up with the back hole, mount one right there. Then the bed will literally just be a big rectangle that terminates. Well, actually, we can go right to the end of that. Boop. Throw that guy on there. We'll shave the rest of the aluminum down to make things match up a little nicer. It's the finish work that comes after the 90 minutes of cleanup that it's going to require. Remind me, in the next installment, which will be Ghost Ride, one of the things that I need to do is I need to weigh a rail to see where it comes out, relatively speaking. It's going to be lighter than the C-channel, and you have to remember, towers are integrated, so it includes all the weight of the mounting points. I had a bunch of Element IFS stuff. That's what these mounts are. I just popped hollow balls. I think it looks super clean. I've done it on a couple rigs in the past. They are the exact same size hollow ball, so they're broached ball studs, and they just pop right in there, and I think they look really good. And all of the sanding, all of the deburring, all of that cleanup, drilling the holes for the body mounts. Oh, yes. Also, we must not forget the battery is preventing us from compression. When this goes to compress, we've got to make a notch. Bonk, bonk, bonk. We can't go all the way. We can't get full. We can get it on this side. We can't get it on this side. Same thing. Panhard doesn't quite clear. So basically, pen. hiding. Everything below the bumper line right here, we're just gonna taper that off, because I'm glad I put in multiple holes, because it turned out to be the middle set and not the bottom set. The bottom set was just slightly too low. Look at our link parallel. Pretty parallel. We've got the little bit of axle sway at full droop. Not in normal service. This is one of those things where, yeah, it looks like the axle has a little bit of swing to it through the whole thing, but the panhard needs to be rechecked. It felt really tight, so it might have 5.8 hollow balls in the ends of it. We might change the ends because now we know the length. We might just build new drag link and panhard because we already know the links. That is an Element 83 for the upper. It was perfect. It puts the front pumpkin exactly where I would want it. It's going to line right up. The rear drive shaft obviously stays the same. These two drive shafts will be radically different. We're going to hope that the Yeah Racing ones that I have fit. If not, we'll figure something out. So this will also serve as, I mean, it doesn't, in the front, this does not need braced. This is a brace, this is a brace, then it's bolted to the chassis. We'll get the sides on it. We'll get everything cleaned up. I'll make the electronics / battery tray for the front. I'm trying to think, what do I want to make it out of? What do I want to make it out of? That's for later. That's for later. I had an idea. We'll see how the idea fleshes out. So it will then give us a use for this. He's going to be green, obviously, maybe with gold accent, maybe gold and green with the black wheels. Ooh, that sounds kind of good. I'm like on an exhaustion high. Like, saying that we were going to get axles and get this guy set down in one episode was a proper mistake. We don't need all of the shock holes, but I think they kind of, because back here we don't have anything really in the way of visual interest except for that stuff. I think he's going to do great. Shocks need to be built. The whole thing needs to be clean. There's a lot. There's a real lot that still needs to be done, but it is the micro stuff. And what I do is clear the bins, take him just like he is, put all of his unused bits in a bin, set him on top of it, and I come back to this in a couple days, because my recommendation is if you get into cutting the aluminum and making your own chassis, pardon me, don't do marathons. Like, do a little bit. And yeah, when I look at it right now, see these big pieces of aluminum? Is the temptation there to make a Sharpie mark around where the shock hole is? And I'm almost sure that is the correct shock hole. I'm almost sure. Is the temptation to take one of the rails before it's even finished, mark the relevant holes, and then just cut new rails? Of course! Of course, the temptation is always there. But we have the beautiful thing that stops me from doing that, which is we have no idea if this is going to be functional. I made this whole thing up. How did I choose my geometry? I took a little bit of Traxxas, I took a little bit of Zoku, I took a little bit of Element, and I threw them in the mixer and stirred them all up. And we genuinely hope for the best. So, with that thought in mind, I wish you all the best. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. I hope that in between now and when we meet again, you one and all do your very best to have a good one, everybody. Thanks for coming by to see Jolly Green's weight loss. 3 pounds down. And without these, he'll be under 10 pounds. The stretch goal was under 10 pounds. And I said 50% unsprung. Oh, yeah. Easy. 17, when I say 1750, 1750 in the axles alone. And with his combos on, he was 4782 with these mounted. So out of 4782, he is, one last thing. I'm Midwestern buying you here. So if the math checks out, we're looking at a final product that is around 70% unsprung weight. So even going to the lighter wheels, we'll only get down to maybe 60% unsprung. I'm thinking 65 to 70% is where we're going to end up. This thing should absolutely murder. Will the gear ratios be right? Will all this stuff be right? I have no idea. But you know what you're going to do? You're going to tune back in and you're going to find out at the very same time that I do.